So I was watching this video on how to create a sheet metal cone, and in the previous example, the presenter did a pyramid where this face was not perpendicular to this face, and in this time that much is correct, but the result probably isn't what was intended. So we'll watch a little bit of this video.
Self.
Something like 350. Actually, I'm going to make that, let's say 350.
Now notice that this angle cut between here and here, and perhaps the design intent is to have a straight rip going along here, and so this result is not going to give you the design intent.
Just a little less, I think.
Just a little bit less, right? So, so it actually, and then we're going to take that sheet metal part out from there that you can weld up later on, right?
Exactly.
So let's look at how to do the part correctly. So I'm going to start a new sketch on one of the origin planes, and I'm going to then draw a line. I'll come over, I'll come up at an angle, back over, and then back down, and I'm going to put some dimensions on here. So I'm going to dimension from this line over to this point, and I'll right click, I'll put a diameter dimension, and I'll go ahead and dimension that, and then from here over to here. It's really important to fully define all of your sketches for robust and predictable results. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension the height of this, let's say to 70 or whatever, and so I have a profile here. I'm going to change these three lines to construction lines, and I'll finish that sketch, and then I'll go ahead and make my first sheet metal flange. So I'll do a sheet metal flange, and I'm going to go back this direction, let's say 10 millimeters. Now, in the video, the presenter rotated a rectangle around here, and we saw that that ended up with that V-shaped rip, which is probably not the design intent. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Let me turn the sketch back on, and I'll temporarily turn off that sheet metal flange, and I'll go to the surfaces tools, and I'm going to do a revolve, and I'll select this profile, and I'll select the axis, and I'm going to revolve the full 360 degrees. Actually, before we do that, let's do we'll do a portion of that. So let's do, say, 345, and I'll say OK to that, and I'll look at that from the top view. So notice then this line is coming out at an angle here, where for our rip, when we bring this over to here, we may want this to be parallel to that. And so I'll go ahead and then just to edit that feature, and we'll change it to a full 360 degrees. And so we'll put in the 360. And then I'm going to start a new sketch on this plane. And I'll come around where I'm looking directly at this. And let's turn off the surface body for a minute. And I'm going to draw a rectangle over here about like this. And then I'm going to do coincident. I want this point coincident with that line on top. I'll do this point coincident with that line over here. And I'm going to dimension a distance from here to here. And initially I'll make that large, let's say 11 millimeters. And initially I'll make this distance large, let's say we'll do 10 millimeters. Alright, I'll finish that sketch, and I'm going to turn on the surface visibility again, and I'm going to do trim, and I'll select this surface, and I'm going to trim out this piece right here. Okay, then I'm going to turn my sheet metal flange back on again, and I'll also want to get rid of this portion over here. So I should have brought this on all the way over to here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll edit that sketch, and I'm going to just get rid of this dimension, and I'll coincident this point over to here. And when I did that, let's increase the dimension a little bit too. So let's edit that sketch. I want to clearly show this, and so let's do 15. Okay, so I have a rip in between here and here, and then I'm going to go to thicken. My thickness is 2.5 millimeters. Now I should go look up the variable for this, and I think I'll do that in a minute. So I have minus 0.25 millimeters. I'm going to join that to the original flange, and let's go and see if I go to my parameters and I see what that sheet metal the variable name for that was D4. Okay, so let's go back to this thickness, and I'm going to put in minus D4 for that, and that way if I change my thickness, this will automatically update. Alright, if I want to go to a sheet metal part or a flat pattern, I'll select a face, and it gives me the flat pattern. Now let's clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the original flange, and I'm going to edit that feature, and I'm going to make it really tiny. In Fusion, we have to have a little bit of a flat face here. So let's do that. Let's say 0.01 for our flat face there. And then I'm going to edit to sketch, and I'm going to change this to 0.02 and leave a little bit of a rip. And so I have a real thin rip between there. But notice now this time, if I look at it from the top view, these two lines are parallel. I don't have a pie shaped or an angle shape in there. And then if I want to weld or solder that up, I just continue on. So go to the flat pattern, and we see that. So that is how to do a cone.